All right, so been in America a while now and settling in well, and decided to break out a really old game. And if any of you recognise this game, you realise I am quite mad. This is a game I bought when I was about 21, I think, when I was at university. I can even remember now, I think it was £19.95, and that seemed a staggering price. And I did lose my copy of this game after a while, but about 5-6 years ago, I was lucky enough to find a copy of it actually unpunched. And I'm sure it would be worth an awful lot more if I had left it unpunched. But I don't know whether enjoyed is the right word, but I always had a nagging desire to have a go at this game, and indeed had a play of it, or at least elements of it, in my early years. So a bit about us returning to our youth, I think. This is the infamous, many would say, Campaign for North Africa, published by SPI Games. It has two proud boasts, I think. One, the longest recommended play game for any board and counter board game. The rules, just reminding myself, indicated the game might take 1,500 hours to play, and recommends 10 players, 5 aside. It is a really micro detailed game, and at best I think I might get through Graziani's offensive in 1940. Certainly not all 100 odd game turns that there are taking us through till after Alamein. The game, if some of you have never played it, goes down to really very low levels of detail. You can see some of the counters here on the table, so I'm trying to get rid of that shadow. We have actually company and battalion level units up to divisional scale units. You go down to the scale of having to plot individual supply convoys, fuel usage and breakdown rates by truck, readiness of aircraft at an individual level, individual pilot ability from ace through to novice. You have fleet units. Here you can see some elements of the British fleet moored up here in Alexandria, and all in all, it's more a bookkeeping game rather than a board game. So I've simply set up the units for the first turn. There actually aren't that many units on the table. So what we've got here is the Italian army. You've got in the immediate assault 3 Libyan, effectively militia divisions. The black counters are their black shirt militia divisions, and there are 3 regular divisions here. So we've got about 8 divisions, and not many more than 8 counters on the table for their main infantry units. And you can see you've got a screen here of British units, mostly of the 7th Armoured and some sundry infantry battalions. On the frontier, you've got more of the 7th Armoured and 4th Indian Division here at Mersa Matruh. And then back in Alexandria, we've got the 2nd New Zealand Division starting to form up. And here, more of the 70th British Division and the 6th Australian Division starting to form up. But just to get those 20 odd counters on the table, I'm on now my 3rd session of play, if play is the right word, and it's heavily involved this thing here. So when I first did this game, this was all pen and paper. Now it's all Excel spreadsheets. Can I get the screen up? No, the screen's locked itself. But really helpfully, someone's loaded all of the individual unit and basic schedules you need for the game up onto Excel. So you can download those off the Board Game Geek website. And you've got at least some of the work done, because you have to make up an individual roster for every single unit, which has fuel consumption, breakdown rates, movement allowances, morale, disorganization levels, strength levels, tracking for your armoured vehicles, different breakdown rates for different armoured vehicles, for different types, for trucks, for example, and so forth. And you've got to plot naval convoys coming in reserve, and you've got to plot all of the logistics chains for the Libyans, all the way through from these off-board holding boxes for Tripolitania, Tunis, Tripoli, and then down through Elagia, isn't it, at the bottom, up through Benghazi, around Derna, through to Tobruk, to Bardia and the front line. So you've got massive logistical convoys you have to plot, and you have to plot what each one of those fuel convoys is carrying in terms of fuel, ammunition, stores and water. You have to calculate the fuel consumption rates for the trucks themselves, as they can get through an awful lot of the fuel they're carrying just driving themselves up to the front line. And you've also got local seaborne convoys. You can run coasters effectively from Tripoli through to the harbours in Tobruk and Benghazi, and you also have to plot the convoys from Italy, including the replacements of ammunition, fuel and stores, but also replacement equipment and replacement troops. For the Allies, the logistics is all somewhat easier, as effectively the game gives you unlimited supplies in Cairo and Alexandria, coming through from the supply chains from British Empire, and you simply have to plot getting it from there up to your front line, which makes you at once realise how much easier the logistics are to plan for the Allies as you fall back towards Mersa Matruh and the Italian scenario, Sidi Barrani, and potentially back towards Alamein, when there's just going to be a massive shuttling of supplies forward from these supply hubs here in the Delta, as opposed to the enormous haul up from Libya, subject all the while to attack from the air forces of both sides. Here in Alexandria, we can see in our Alexandria box here a whole bunch of RAF squadrons, mixture here of mainly Blenheims, some Gladiators, some Hurricanes. But you have to realise that the opening part of this campaign is taking place in September 1940, so towards the climax of the Battle of Britain. So the actual RAF force here is really pretty threadbare. What have we got there? About 10 squadrons in the whole of Egypt. Up on that far end of the table, we can't really see it there, there's a representation of Malta. And in Malta, up here, you may be able to see we've got some counters on there, which are the British squadrons based out of Malta, another 5 squadrons there. But for the Italians, we must have 25, 30 squadrons of the Italian Air Force, with some pretty good planes in terms of the Soviet Machete 79s and 81s, and a lot of biplane fighters, CR-32s, and I think it's 42s as well. But certainly a large numerical superiority, and in terms of quality of pilots, better quality pilots than the RAF have by volume, if not proportionally. So we will start this game. It might be a little bit tedious for you guys to watch it play, because it's mainly on spreadsheets as I shuttle those supplies forward. If the Italian army had an effective logistics system and enough trucks, it could almost certainly drive all its way to Cairo. But although it has plenty of troops, a lot of those divisions have pretty much no mobility. They all will have to march all the way to Alexandria. And although we have some pretty big supply dumps here on the... what have I done? I've knocked over some counters here. I'll have to work out where they go. Maletti, I think they're at Libya, Omar. I think that's where they're based. You'll have to march all the way forward, and although we have some big supply dumps at Bardia and Tobruk, and a couple of more supply dumps under the 1st CCNN counter, for example, with a lot of supplies here, we have very few trucks because so many are committed to hauling the supplies up the coastline to support the advance. Conversely, for the Allies, we have a reasonable allocation of trucks and actually very few combat units on the table. So the ones we have are pretty well fueled, equipped, and all are motorised. So given I have this very thin screen on the border, I thought best to motorise all of those units, so if nothing else they can pull back quickly when the Italian push happens. So all of those infantry battalions are fully motorised. 7th Armoured infantry battalions are fully motorised. The Matruh garrison, I think, is also motorised. 4th Indian is not. And the New Zealand, 2nd New Zealand Division, we only have 1 brigade here so far. The other 2 brigades are en route to Egypt, but I think that one brigade, as this division is fully trained, is also motorised. The 6th Australian back here has got to go through desert training and has only just arrived, has done no acclimatisation, so won't really be fit for action for most of this campaign, and I'll have to hold some units back to do that training. So wish me luck. I am completely mad, but for those of you who ever heard of this game, welcome to campaign for North Africa. There's the box lid, a rather battered box. As I say, 85, 95, 2005, it's about a 40-year-old game, this one. And you can see the box has suffered a little bit of damage from being stored in lofts and other places. But all the maps are pristine, all the rules are all here, all the counters are all here. I have had to replace the dice because the dice had faded away to nothing, just even though they were sealed in the box. The markings on the dice completely faded and they had gone yellow. So all the paperwork has survived in a really good shape. So I'll come back perhaps, give you a bit of an update. I'll probably give up playing this game well before we get anywhere. But while I'm here on my own, playing with the spreadsheets, moving the logistics, moving the convoys forward, something to keep me entertained some of these evenings. All right, cheers everyone, and if you're up for it, enjoy the game. Oh, and remember the Italian pasta rule, the only board game I am aware of where your supply consumption for your Italian units is double the water allowance for any Allied unit because they're eating pasta all the time. Well, who knows if that's really true and really fair, but something to smile at. Cheers everyone, and see you soon.